why the People's Party of Canada? Tell me, Greg.
So the People's Party of Canada chose me. I never planned on being a politician. It was 4 years ago when I saw someone with next to no qualifications become Prime Minister of our country. And that's when I started to pay attention to politics. Needless to say, when I saw Maxime Bernier speaking a lot of truth, separating himself from the Conservatives and talking about the frustrations with our system, I really identified with that.
Yeah.
And I followed him on Twitter. I saw what he was saying, and I got more and more engaged and passionate about it. And then before I knew it, I went to a People's Party of Canada meetup to form one of the local EDAs, or electoral district associations.
Oh, cool. So far, but you've met, and you also met Maxime Bernier yourself, and you've shaken hands and spoke to him at length, of course. So I'm getting frustrated with some of these questions. I've spoken to the Green Party of Canada, and there was no problem with Nick Capra being on the same stage with you. He's an honorable man. He says, no, I don't mind him being on the stage debating with you. What is going on with the People's Party of Canada? Like, I've read everything on your website as far as policies. I've read a lot of things. I do not understand where you get this hate speech conversation happening.
Yeah.
Is it because over the Immigration and Multiculturalism Act? Do you think perhaps maybe that's the platforms? Is it the language? Is it the fear? Like, what the hell happened? Like, how do you come from wanting more secure borders to now you're a racist? Where do you think this is coming from? Like, what's your I guess allegations on this?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think the media establishment, I think the establishment political parties are scared of us. I think they're scared because we're speaking the truth on a lot of issues that haven't been spoken about openly in this country so bravely in a long time. Maxime Bernier is the only person talking about getting rid of crony capitalism and its many manifestations, which is essentially when corporations have ins with politicians, so there's no longer a fair competition in the marketplace, which is something that does not help consumers. It's very unfortunate for consumers and Canadian citizens, and that's something Maxime Bernier is talking about.
Yeah.
When it comes to this mischaracterization, which can easily be disproven, I think for sure, like I will admit, there is definitely, our website is very blunt. Our website is very direct.
Yeah.
And it's a complete antithesis, not an antithesis, but it's very different from the other politically established parties. Their websites, there's a lot of fluff, there's a lot of marketing, there's a lot of branding, there's a lot of like psychology that I'm sure goes into this.
Yeah.
Can you find their policies and their platform on these websites? You have to dig. You have to dig and look until you can actually find the details.
True, but the Green Party does have a very well laid out policies as far as their plan goes. I've noticed that as far as them. And I know the People's Party had as well. But you're right, the other two parties they're very wishy-washy, and it's very like minimalist.
For sure.
They're not as detailed and as profound as the two political parties I see. Like, I know the Green Party was very detailed too, even down to the budget, So, and Maxime Bernier made very clear, this is what I want to know about the immigration policy. Like, this is where I fear. I'm a journalist, so I see Canadians, so give me my perspective for a second before answering. I feel Canadians don't care about massive immigration, don't really care. They care more about how the mechanism is implemented. Like the last refugees that we received here in Canada were pushed ahead on housing from local communities. They were given $25,000 per family unit to survive. And I'm like going, well, why is a refugee and another immigrant who comes here illegally, why are they not treated the same? And I think that's where Canadians are getting mad. They're getting pissed off.
Yeah.
Or they're getting pissed off at the fact that you've allowed like ISIS like extremists, ISIS extremists within our own country that are actually have criminal records. And then you have other people who are getting upset with the Multiculturalism Act, and I think I know why. Remember the case in Edmonton, Alberta, when one of the Syrian refugee men was molesting, or he was like touching, and he was like trying to rape a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 13-year-old at the Edmonton pool, and then the judge got him off because of the Multiculturalism Act.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I think there's like 6 fathers out there who are really pissed off about this stuff. And I think these are concerns that Canadians that the other political parties are not addressing when it comes to immigration. like there's a flaw in some of the immigration and how we accept them here. I'm not saying that we should. I think we're the second biggest country in the world. I think we can afford it. But my point is how it's implemented, and I don't think it's fair. I think it's all hype, and it's all like you know, to look good on the international stage. Can you speak to that? Or?
Absolutely. Immigration is a big issue because you have immigrants, you have the point system, you have refugees, you have asylum seekers. Like there's a lot of different systems at work here, and what we need to do as a country is focus on how it fulfills our job market and how it affects our housing market, and to make sure that it's all sustainable and helps us as a country. And of course, you know, something the People's Party wants to do is prioritize at-risk groups in terms of refugees, which include LGBTQ+, and also religious minorities in Muslim-majority countries. And right now, there's the UN is picking a lot of the refugees for us, and we want to change that. We want to pick the own refugees that we allow into this country, and we also want to encourage people to like private sponsorship of refugees. I've worked actually with a company called Rainbow Railroad, who focuses on LGBTQ+ refugees.
Yeah, I know the Rainbow Railroad.
Yeah. I used to work at 103.9 Proud FM, North America's only commercial.
That's right. I know you. I know John Kenyon from.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I know Richard Ryder. I'm good friends with Richard Ryder.
Yeah, I know Richard. I know Richard. I came much later, but I was there when Richard was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, great guy. But yeah, but back to immigration. We are talking about it. We're talking about it, and it's something that we need to be talking about. And all of the other establishment parties, I mean, except for a little bit of what Scheer may say, they're too afraid to talk about it. And
so what's the fear? Is the fear because we've been brainwashed at multiculturalism and all this other I find sometimes that multiculturalism a pejorative drug, to be honest. In my opinion, not all cultures are equal, because not all cultures are at the same evolution or at the same timeline of its evolution. Canadian cultures, like here, like you have a lot of people with different cultures. Like I know a lot of Muslim friends, like Dr. Akbar Khan and his wife. They're peaceful Muslims. Their culture seems to admit they've managed to adapt to Canadian culture with their own. You know what I mean? And to me, that's what being Canadian's about. I don't know. I don't understand. So what is the sentiment happening with the opposition that they're so, like, you know, the big ad that went on, no massive immigrations. I hear it wasn't even a PPC ad. It was somebody else. That was
exactly. Yeah.
Why would that offend somebody? Why would that be considered to be hate speech?
Well, yeah, that's kind of delving into the psychology of Canadians, and kind of the last 4 years we've been told diversity is our strength, diversity is our strength, diversity is our strength over and over again.
True.
And what we say in the People's Party of Canada is unity is our strength.
That's right.
I mean, diversity is a feature, it's a characteristic. I mean, multiculturalism is a reality in Canada, and the People's Party has nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Pluralism is better. Yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And
so why the hate speech? Where was the tie into the hate speech? Was it something somebody said? Was it something that Maxime Bernier said in French and it was mistaken in English?
Like I said, you know, you've worked in media, JC, so, you know, we can talk about how the media operates, but I really think they're afraid of us because we're speaking a lot of truth to the Canadian people. And if you look in history of media, you know, you slander your opposition.
That's right.
And I gotta say, some of my biggest idols right now, in terms of media personalities, they have all been accused of racism. You know, like
that's right.
It's
that's true.
Across the board. All of my biggest idols. It's
Us comedians are having a hard time now trying even to like perform sometimes because you don't know how far you could bring the joke, but you know you could feel it that Canadians want to laugh.
Yeah.
But there's just this hidden sentiment where now, like, you know, people are afraid now. I got a few radio hosts that I know from one, I won't mention the towns because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But he said, "JC, what the hell is going on, man? I nearly lost my job. The CRTC came down my ass because I got Chaz Bono's personal pronoun wrong in the third person."
Wow.
On radio. And because he got it wrong, he nearly lost his job.
Really?
And so I'm going, yeah, that's wrong, because now I've interviewed the trans community way before it became popular. Okay, I remember the trans community was not even like really accepted by the gay community at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I've been shooting gay pride since the '87. Okay, so for me it was like, what's going on? And I think this push of language is saying, oh, you will learn these pronouns, if not, like, it's against the law. I'm going, what are we in communist China?
Yeah.
Like, where's this mandated speech happening? Is that one of the PPC's position as well, that this mandated of speech as well from is getting out of hand?
There's two bills that we really don't like and we want to repeal. Sorry, one's a bill and one's a motion.
Okay.
There is one on the trans pronoun, which I believe is, I want to say C16. I should have that in front of me somewhere if you want to look it up.
Okay.
But essentially, that is imposing law that if you mispronounce somebody, then you can get in trouble.
I know.
And if this is kind of Jordan Peterson's big like blow up claim to fame, where he was like, that absolutely not, because that's policing speech. And then once we start to do that, we're going down a bad road.
Really a bad road. Yeah.
And that's really what how he was kind of thrust into the spotlight. It's funny, like the big heroes and celebrities these days are just people who have principles and are saying, no, actually, I believe in this, and I have my head screwed on straight. And then now he's like this worldwide celebrity for just being a regular guy. But the other one is Motion 103 on Islamophobia.
Oh, I hate that, because we didn't need the extension. Our code of conduct, the criminal code of 318 and 320. Up to 320 was fine the way it was.
It already includes hate speech laws. We already have that. It's already covered. From what I've heard, though, the Liberals are trying to bring up more hate speech laws to try and police people on the internet, basically. And I believe if you look at the UK, they arrest like over 1,000 people a year based on internet comments.
That's disgusting.
It's
ridiculous. You know what it is? It becomes... I don't know if you know this, and if you've ever talked to somebody who's been to Russia, or like during communist Russia, during the communist Slovakia. Like, I have a friend who's from Slovakia.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And they talk about also in Russia, they talk about the wooden language. Which wooden language, yeah.
Wooden.
What means is like the common language that you would talk in public.
Okay.
That you're allowed to say, kind of
publicly acceptable,
in the communist country. And then you would talk your own stuff in private. Isn't that what is becoming today in Canada? And this is what frightens me to do as a reporter as well. Is that I look at some of these policies that the Liberals were doing, and I says, this used to be the extreme conservative moments, or like the extremist type of thing of conservatives who would be, either huge religious rights who would adopt these policies, and it's coming from the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
And even adopting everything from the United Nations, like including the right to charge any media company that talks negatively against immigration.
People haven't heard about this stuff.
People know.
Have not even heard about this stuff, and it's very Orwellian.
It is.
And we're fighting against. I mean, you were mentioning like why are people so scared? Why are people so scared? Comedy. Our senses of humor are at risk.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, freedom of speech. But along with that is just being able to criticize something. And when you can't criticize something and you can't question something, you can't really have an intelligent conversation about it.
That's right.
And when we don't have our intelligence or our rationality, then we're going back to the Dark Ages. That's where we're going. That's why I've been forced to step into this position. I never would have imagined myself as a politician.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of seeing like different patterns here and there, and it's like, well, this doesn't look very good. And then I think of my grandfather who fought in World War II against real Nazis, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm here in front of you today, to stand up for what I believe in.
That was the other thing that made me laugh. It didn't make me laugh. It was kind of offended by it. Like I know David Rubin, okay? When he was there with Maxime Bernier at Mohawk College, and you had these Antifa people screaming at the head of, he said, "You're a Nazi, you're a Nazi." I'm going, he's a Jewish gay boy. Why would you say such things like that? And then I saw a sign here, and this is where I'm getting frightened, as a Canadian, as a journalist. Hate speech does not equal free speech. And I have a hard time with this, and the reason why is because and well read, of course, with history. I remember ACLU in the past used to, and I asked this question to the Green Party. ACLU used to allow the KKK and also to have a podium and have their marches every year at the university. Because they believed in freedom of speech so much so, knowing that that the intelligence of their students who come into the campus have the intelligence and the integrity to know that these guys are just fools. And guess what happened? The KKK started dwindling over the years on campus, and they hardly had no members.
Yeah.
Why? Because they gave respect to the students, that they would have the knowledge, you know. And then Nick was saying for the Green Party, he says, well, sometimes, you know, those podiums go up, you know. Sometimes people who with these kind of ideologies. I'm going, yeah, but who are we as a state to control that? That's where, you know what I'm saying? Like, are we to control the language, control the...
It's kind of insulting to the general public to think like, hey, you might be convinced by this or you might be into this, and for the most part, people will not be. They'll say, no, I think that's a bad idea.
Like, Paul Taylor from the NDP here in Hyde Park said that he felt uncomfortable from some of the things that you said, and I'm saying... I bet uncomfortable in a sense of what? I said, well, like as far as like racism. I said, racism? What are you talking about? You didn't. What would be the triggers? What do you think the triggers are that's happening in the language of the PPC that is not being accepted as? So
this reminds me of the way the media is currently operating in regards to characterizing the People's Party of Canada and Maxime Bernier. All right. There's three things that happen in an article about us. Number one, they amplify partisan voices. So there's this group called antihate.ca or something. I don't know how this organization operates, but in every article, boom, someone from anti-hate comes in as this expert, this hate expert, and they're like, yeah, you know, this is what I think about the PPC. I know for a fact they're racist. I know for a fact they're xenophobic. So all these mainstream media news articles, they prop up voices like people from anti-hate being experts on the People's Party. Number two is they propagate these very loose associations that we have. Maxime Bernier has been campaigning for like a year straight, taking pictures with thousands of different people. Yeah. Then they will focus on one image. Yeah. And then the journalists will do a whole bunch of research on these random people in this one image and say, this is everything the People's Party represents based on this guy's Facebook page. And then number three, and this is the biggest injustice in my opinion, they omit our voice entirely. For example, Paul Taylor probably said, oh, I didn't like what he said. What did you say? Like, what did I say that you didn't like?
I want to ask
I'm sure he didn't even mention the specific thing that I said that he didn't like. Yeah. And, I mean, that's kind of the three characteristics. You can see the patterns all over the place. Omitting our actual voice.
That's wrong, too.
And stopping the conversation from happening. You
guys enjoy the conversation. Like, this is what I've noticed too with the People's Party of Canada, that you want the conversation to occur. And then after speaking to Nick Capper from the Green Party, he agrees too. Yeah, he says we need. Yeah, I'd be open. He said I'd be open to have more conversation on this issue. Yeah. And I says we need more conversation on this issue.
That's what democracy is, right? Yeah. And then that was my understanding.
Yeah, that's what I thought so too. As you know, we have a maxim here at D.D.P Studios Inc. It's as iron sharpens iron, as one artist sharpens another. Meaning no fucking backstabbing. Meaning if you're going to do out ideas, do it out to each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Don't do it behind each other's backs and backstabbing each other. Sure. So and you can't sharpen your mind without being uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think we've come with a generation of people that are uncomfortable with just a different ideology. Oh, my feelings. Well, I always say that your feelings are not infallible indicators of facts. So for me, can you speak more to the issue of the misinterpretation? What do you want to say about the People's Party? Is the People's Party of Canada racist? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And
why? Just tell me. Let me just go for it, man.
Why?
Yeah.
We don't. Oh man, I don't even know where to begin on this one.
Yeah.
I wanted to add. I like to tell the story of how the People's Party came to be. You know. Because I asked people, have you experienced any frustration with the political establishment in Canada and the political process and our options. And people will, if they're being honest, most of them will say, yeah, I have been frustrated.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, that's why the People's Party exists. But that's not why you should vote for us. That's why you should be open-minded to learning more about us. It's very simple. Because we're doing politics differently. We don't want to, be slandering the other guys and saying this guy sucks, that guy sucks, that's why you should vote for us. We want you to vote for something. And we are the principled alternative. We have principles: personal responsibility, individual freedom, fairness, and respect.
That's right.
And I mean, I hate even giving these like racist allegations any oxygen because they're so baseless. And you might say, oh, well, you attract these sort of people to your party. You know what? Politics attracts a lot of weird people.
Yeah, that's
okay?
right. Yeah,
all sides of the political spectrum.
Absolutely.
So, and the fact that the media is just going to focus on the weird people who are attracted to our party and not look into the highest levels of government that have real allegations against them that they're funding terrorism. Why are we not focusing on that? You're going to focus on a grassroots movement and a random people that showed up to a rally as opposed to the highest levels of government and the various scandals that should be looked into further. I've said it in debates, and I'll say it now, our mainstream media in this country is failing us.
It's failing us.
They need to be facilitating that conversation, this conversation we're talking about.
The thing is, how could they facilitate it now after $695 million bailout from the Liberal Party? How could you be objective? I'm just saying, as a journalist myself, there's no way in hell I could be objective in the scrum of the news with a microphone saying, hey, Justin, so who's going to be interfering in the 2019 election? Is it Trump or the Russians? That's the question I'm only allowed to ask, to Justin if I was in the scrum of the news. And currently right now, I know the rebel media, and I'm not always agreeing with Ezra, okay? I have a lot of conservative friends who don't believe in my homosexuality and think that I should get married and the whole bit. But they're still my friends. Yeah. On Facebook, but Facebook decides, who my friends are, and they say, so this is what's happening now with the on the government level. It's like, oh, this is what you're supposed to believe in, and it feels like there's a treatment of Canadians as children. Am I too far of a stretch to saying that? Like, can you what's your comments on that?
I feel like every time I listen to Justin Trudeau's speech and even Andrew Scheer, I feel like my intelligence is being insulted. And every time I hear about the D.D.P platform, I feel like they don't know that I have a calculator on my phone. But I think that disagreements are healthy. Having disagreements are healthy, and man, it must be nice to be Justin Trudeau and speak for all Canadians, and we're all on the same page apparently, and nobody disagrees with anybody else, and it's just simply all a farce. I mean, I'd be lucky if I get along with my family members. I disagree with them on a regular basis, but apparently this perception that we're fed by Justin Trudeau is that all Liberals get along and we all love each other and we've never had one disagreement in our life.
Yeah, that's right. It's a distortion of reality, really, and I'm getting upset with it. Okay, so the other question about it that I saw also on the People's Party of Canada, you guys don't like the United Nations very much, do you? Or you just don't feel like taking marching orders, I guess, completely from the United Nations. I can understand that.
So I want to be clear here. I'm sure the United Nations, especially in the past, has done a lot of great things for helping countries develop, for helping humanitarianism, human rights, and peacekeeping, which are the four principles they were founded upon, and all the power to them. However, the biggest concern and criticism that we have is why is this large organization that doesn't really have any accountability for Canada or Canadians, why are they imposing these international, transnationally, these rules upon us and Canada and Canadians when they don't take care of our economy, they don't take care of our citizens? Like, that's our job. That's the Canadian government's job. So it is strange. And I do want to point out, they're making migration like a human right, and they're saying like we need to move all these people by this amount of time and yada yada yada. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is something that we have to do now, according to the United Nations, because they didn't do a great job at development.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do a great job at peacekeeping. They didn't do a great job at humanitarianism and promoting human rights in these, disenfranchised countries. If I'm not mistaken, that's why this is happening, because they didn't do such a great job with that.
But some people would believe that the reason for mass migrations as well as occurring is because of the forever wars that the United States is, constantly changing, wars with everybody. Going to war, like there's just one war pimp after it. It's like Obama. Obama was just as big of a war pimp as George W. Bush was. People go, oh! I said, you just don't criticize him because he's black. Let's be honest. That's the reason why. Okay, and I'm one of the very courageous journalists to say that. But he, when you look at his policies of what he voted for, the National Defense Authority Act to kill, citizens with drones. Who the fuck does that? Number two, he does, bailing out the banks. And Libya war, can I just go on? And this war against whistleblowers, and journalists. Obama was very vicious in that, more so than... And Trump is just now... and I always say Trump was the best thing that happened in the United States. He's like a fucking bus that went to a shopping mall and woke up all Americans to how corrupt their politics have become. Is that what the People's Party of Canada is? Like a bus going through the shopping mall now and saying, hey guys, wake up, your politics are corrupt and we're here to help you out. And go ahead.
So I definitely like that radical analogy of a bus, but there is a pattern with these different populist movements, that we see around the world, and one of the main characteristics that we all share is we're not a huge fan of these transnational rules and demands happening from the UN. That's kind of like across the board. That's something that we all have in common.
Yeah. Can you speak to the NAFTA and the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Not in too much detail. I've been learning a lot since I've been running on my campaign, and I'm kind of focusing on policy points specifically, but
and more of on the current local level, I guess.
I'm trying to. Yeah,
this would be more foreign policy, more of a question for Maxime Bernier, I guess, because I'd like to know his comments on the NAFTA agreement and the TPP, because I think there's just crappy deals, really, for Canadians.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I tell people is, one of the main reasons that you should really look into the People's Party of Canada is that Maxime Bernier has more relevant leadership experience in his left pinky than everybody else on the ballot. And people are really concerned about, this climate crisis. And I say we should be just as worried about a global recession.
Yeah.
I don't want to be fear mongering and tell you that the world's going to end in 10 years. However, who would you want at the helm if there was a global recession? Because I think you would want somebody who has fiscal experience with taking.
True enough, but I'll be honest about the fiscal responsibility here in Canada. I interviewed Rocco Galati, a constitutional lawyer, years ago, and I think the only political party that actually admitted to the crime, and he was developing a case against the Bank of Canada Act, which I don't know if you know this, but our national debt at $465 billion at this point. Is being printed money by a foreign bank, BNA International subsidiary of Geisig and de Vrij, which is a German company that prints our money. We have our own mint. We have not printed our own money in so fucking long, interest-free for all our programs, because that's what our forefathers wanted. They said we have our own bank, we print our own money, interest-free, and at the end of the year, our taxpayers' money goes towards the debt of paying off for all that infrastructure, because the money was used in the past to build the pipeline, the trans railway, also development of the Women's Hospital, all sorts of other programs that the Bank of Canada was used, and we had a fiscal. We didn't even have a food bank until after 1974. Then, when a few politicians decided to subvert the Bank of Canada Act in order to increase foreign stimulus of banks here in Canada. So then we started taking loans at quadruple the interest, compounded daily, which is impossible to pay off. So when I talk about budget with governments, I always get annoyed because I'm saying there's no way of getting out of that budget. The only way to really truly fiscally bring everything back down to zero is to go and enact the Bank of Canada Act again. Because right now we're subverting the supreme law, like a Supreme Court of law, like a part of our Constitution. The Bank of Canada was written for that reason. And we should be borrowing money from ourselves interest-free for all of our programs. What do you think? You think Maxime Bernier would be up for that? Because I know he's up for a good idea. As I'm saying, how about like cancel our foreign debts, and then we take out an interest-free loan out of our own bank, and that way we have more control over our programs and there's more control over the interest that's being charged.
I mean, I won't speak for Maxime Bernier, and I would definitely have to do more research on that topic in particular. However, I would definitely say that he is tackling the cost of living for Canadians on multiple different fronts.
Okay, cool. But he would be open to a discussion on that, though. That's what my question was.
I think, I mean, if Max is open to talk about anything, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so get back to the cost of living. So this is the focus here for the People's Party of Canada, is the cost of living, you're saying? You got numbers there? Yeah? Yeah,
I mean, first of all, tax reform, keep it simple.
Yeah.
For
God, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for Canadians who earn $15,000 and under, 0% tax. Mm-hmm. For the biggest bracket between $15,000 and $100,000, only 15% tax, which is the biggest bracket. And then everyone above that, above $100,000 a year, 25% tax. Getting rid of the capital gains tax. We want to abolish corporate welfare, and we want to make tax for small businesses lower as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
so my question too, with poverty going on, like right now, the Canadian Payroll Association had a review, and it was only 6,400 Canadians that were reviewed. And they said it was 42% of Canadians actually working paycheck to paycheck. But I checked the statistics with Statistics Canada, because we have a federal firm there. It's actually 62% of Canadians are working paycheck to paycheck.
Oh wow!
Ouch, that hurt me. That says to me that's not a good economy. And now we have this new term called the working poor. What the fuck? And we have machination, we have more technologies, and jobs are dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And I know the math. What's your sentiment on universal income as far as basic income, universal basic income? Because some people think that is a viable solution. I mean, the data shows that as a viable solution.
So I think that is, although that sounds like a viable alternative, I think that's a step in the wrong direction. And I think what Maxime Bernier is trying to self-correct what's happening right now.
And why would be in the wrong direction, though? When you see the increase of population versus the amount of not enough sustainable jobs to meet that population demand.
It's harder for people to create jobs when there are like higher and higher fences to start a business because there's so much bureaucracy and there's so much taxes. And I mean...
Yeah, I know. I own this corporation. I get it. It's like, holy shit, the amount of paperwork I have to do. I have to report to this office, to that office, this office, and that office, and that office.
Yeah.
And it's $200 there, $300 there, $150 there, another $70 there, and it just doesn't stop.
Yeah, so, And these other parties are saying, hey, we're going to add a carbon tax and we're going to save you money. Wow, what? Talk about speaking out both sides of your mouth.
So what's the PPC's position? How do you plan to... plan to take it off from the top and let the...
So I think in general, from my perspective, I really think that establishment political parties right now are really great at running their parties as a business.
Yeah.
And they need to be running Canada as a business. And, we can talk about socialism all you want, but we live in a capitalist system. We're in a capitalist system where money talks.
Yeah, we do have a good social safety net. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I'm not against social programs by any means.
Yeah.
However, implementing something like universal basic income would have to be done very, there'd be a lot of planning involved before doing something like that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And my biggest concern with that is it goes against one of our principles, which is personal responsibility and individual freedom. True. If you're relying on the government for your income, you're not really that independent.
But it's not a reliance. It's like people. It's
like an allowance.
It's an allowance in order to alleviate. The rental here in Toronto is astronomical.
Right.
Like we spend more of our percentage on of our paychecks towards rent than we do anything else.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. There's got to be a place where there's some people suggested. I know Michael Hudson. I just read a book. Forgiveness of their debts. He's suggesting let's do a jubilee. In Judaic law, in the past, right up to the 13th century, they used to be wiping out of all the debts. Everybody's debts used to be wiped out after every 50th year because
My
the
God.
Jewish nation at the time calculated that it was impossible, it's unsustainable to sustain the amount of debt to the amount of income, and they knew that the debt would always surmount to a point where you'll never be able to pay it off, like our national debt here in Canada.
Yeah.
So they created what we call the Jubilee. They even wrote it into Judaic law that every 50th year you should have a Jubilee. That means the wiping of debts. And that's why the Jews can buy all this American like equipment and military
Wow.
jets in the billions of dollars. I mean, because they wipe out their debt every 50th year. So, like, these are radical ideas, but they're not implausible ideas. So, is the People's Party of Canada open to those ideas, or are they just closed to their own policies at this time?
I think we need to look at the long term.
Long term.
We need to look at the long term.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
If we think about what makes a country incredible, it's two things. It's the people, and then it's the businesses that these people run.
That's right.
You know, if you want to talk about changing the world, you know, it's not just the individuals in the country. It's usually the companies that they started and the large organizations that they started that make a major impact. Like there is a demand for environmentally responsible and socially responsible companies and solutions.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned a few of them in my debates. For example, to get into environment really quickly, there's a company it's a startup in Toronto called Parity Go, and they retrofit multi-residential buildings or apartment buildings and condos with all of this tech and AI that regulates all of the thermostats, and it actually reduces greenhouse gas emissions consistently and saves people money on their bills.
That's right.
And I was mentioning this in the environmental debate. I'm saying, listen, no one's paying any carbon tax, and we're actually reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, and it's a solution in the private sector.
Yeah.
And to which Nick, the Green candidate, said, "Oh, capitalism got us into this mess. Capitalism's not going to get us out of it." And I mean, if we look about all the conveniences that we get to enjoy, all the luxuries we get to enjoy, I hate to say it, but a lot of them come from capitalism.
That's right.
And you know what really is the most frustrating part of our daily lives? Usually it's dealing with bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's right too.
So,
and the bureaucracy of like, I believe we need to get away from fossil fuels, like big time, like plastics and celluloids. But the thing is, my question to you is, how does one get it? Like, do you believe there's a climate change issue? Because I see some of the science, and I say I'm pretty convinced that there's some issues going on, because it's you know, we're not talking about over 2,000 years or 200,000 years. We're talking in the last 25 years, 35 years. Yeah. There's been a significant change in the planet as far as weather. Because I noticed even meteorologists were noticing all the hurricanes are now coming inland now. Yeah. When they used to be right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, and they used to stay there, and we used to just get the residual effects of those storms. Now they're coming right inland. They're coming right in the bay and destroying, you know, towns and cities. Yeah. So if the observation is there, we know it. What's the people's plan? What's the PPC's plan for the environment? Like, what's your plan?
Yeah, we need to be rational. We need to be very rational about this and look at, again, the long term. Something that, I mean, these parties keep mentioning the alarmism, and it's a crisis, and they're even walking along in the climate strike, like Justin Trudeau is walking in the climate strike. And it's like, you're the guy in charge. Yeah. You know that, right? You're the guy in charge.
He's not even met his mandate from the Paris. From the Paris. Sorry, go ahead.
And I gotta mention, you know, these capitalist forces. That is a reality of where we live. You know, at no point did anyone mention, other than me, in the debate, that, you know, crude oil is a thing on the stock market. It is a very popular thing, and people are going to keep trading crude oil. That is a reality that we have to live with. And guess what? We are going to keep burning oil, whether we like it or not. And as it stands, our current Trudeau administration is shipping oil from Saudi Arabia, burning diesel, carrying it over an open ocean.
He's such a hypocrite.
Yeah, and while we're talking carbon tax, I'm not going to guarantee you, but I have a very strong suspicion to think that we are not going to stop bringing in oil from Saudi Arabia. And what we want to do is get the pipeline in the ground so we can at least have 100% Canadian oil and transport it safer and bring in billions into our economy. Billions of dollars would be flowing into our economy every year.
Temporary jobs, but they see the thing is too, there's other technologies out there right now that actually could supersede oil by a lot. Like we got algae biodiesel fuel. 10 barrels of algae biodiesel fuel could be created to 1 gallon of refined petroleum at a fraction of the cost. And with no emissions, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Things like this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I see good ideas from the Green Party. I see good ideas from here. I see good ideas from the PPC. I'm wondering, maybe Jordan Peterson had a point when he said in the debate one time, and I'm going to quote Jordan Peterson.
Sure.
I agreed with him on this. He says, "Is it perhaps going to be certain days that hey, maybe the Liberals have a good idea and we should just go with it?" And one time, I think in history and politics, that's what it used to be, where the parties
you'd work together.
You'd work together, and for the betterment of Canadians.
Yeah.
Now it seems like we're just going to we're working against each other. We have our views, and this is the way it's going to be. We have our views, this is the way it's going to be. We have our views, and nobody's willing to talk amongst to come up to consensus of something that's actually plausible.
The People's Party is different in that sense because amongst us in the People's Party, we're constantly debating with each other. I went to the PPC convention, all the different candidates and executives were there, and we were talking about different issues. Maybe we should change our policy here, change our policy there.
Yeah.
And one of the big strengths we have is all the candidates have the freedom to speak on nuance on each issue, whereas other political candidates have to point form, say this, don't be too specific. That's kind of like their MO.
Yeah.
Whereas we can actually have an opinion and be human about it. And I really think that within the People's Party is really what Parliament Hill and House of Commons should look like, which is a bunch of individual Canadians with different opinions uniting under 4 principles that I think everyone could agree with: personal responsibility, individual freedom, fairness, and respect. And that's why I think it's a really beautiful thing. I think it's not going anywhere. I think it's just the first year that we've been around, and I think it's more than a party; it's a movement.
So the PPC is not climate change deniers. You're not climate change deniers. You're just saying, let's be rational about it. Let's have a conversation more about it. Let's see what's the best options and what's the best viability. Because right now the other political party, Nick was saying, well, the IPC from the United Nations said this, and I says, okay, well, that's nice and all, but why are we taking marching orders from the United Nations all the time on issues on the environment? Why? What have they done really to help the environment? Have they done something specific? This is what I'm saying. There's no solutions. Everybody's talking rah, 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 but I don't see concrete I know hemp can replace oil. Hemp, because it grows so fast. Yeah. You can literally...
Canadians grow a lot of it.
Yeah, and then we could grow hemp, and it would literally replace textiles.
And
that wouldn't that be increase the amount of permits of hemp in Canada?
Absolutely.
Because we only have 1,000 permits right now.
Yeah, I was pointing out in the environment debate. I'm the youngest person here, so trust me, I'm invested in this world, in this planet.
Right, yeah.
However, being a media studies student, can we call the problem pollution? Because I can see how pollution is a problem that we need to curb our pollution-heavy lifestyles. That is a problem we need to solve in my lifetime, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's called climate change. And I said this. It
used to be called global warming. Now it's called climate change. Now it's called. Who knows?
There was acid rain. There was an ice age coming. Yeah. I mean, it snowed in Alberta last week. I said that in the debate, and I got groans. And this one woman started freaking out in the audience. And I said, "Ma'am, look, now you're screaming at me because you're scared. We need to be rational about this.
That's right.
Because if you get scared, you're going to start yelling at me, I'm going to start yelling at you, and then we're not going to have a conversation, and we're not going to find any sort of solution." I saw a great meme, actually, the other day, where it showed a picture of Greta Thunberg.
Okay.
And then it showed a picture of this, I forget the kid's name, but you may have heard this in the news like years ago now, but it was this young inventor who invented this thing that helps take plastic out of the oceans.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw this. I thought that was a great invention. Where is this kid now?
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I mean. Beyond Meat Burger, that company that I mentioned, and other energy solutions.
Like solar power road.
Yeah, innovation is what we need. Innovation and I mean, we're fighting human greed here, okay?
That's right.
The greed of burning human oil.
Yeah.
And human oil, sorry. Fossil fuels.
Yeah, fossil fuels.
And to really reliably curb that and change that, we need to vote with our wallets, and we need to vote with our wallets on something that actually makes sense.
Yeah,
and slowly but surely, I can see us transitioning into the green economy, but that's not going to happen overnight. And I'm sorry to the Green Party, I don't think we should regulate the crap out of every existing business, because I think, let's say we do that, right? And we have a carbon tax, okay? And then the climate keeps changing, and natural disasters keep happening. And I can guarantee this third one, China continues to pump just as much CO2 into the air and plastic into the oceans. And where's Canada? We've completely crippled our economy and living in poverty. I mean,
yeah. But we don't need to, though. If we did the transition, like you were saying, a transition to away from fossil fuels, we have enough natural resources, enough land to actually do the transformation.
Yeah.
As a beacon to the rest of the world if we needed to.
And yeah. It's like I said, like it comes back to the companies, like the businesses that can be world leaders potentially.
Like we're more in bed with oil companies here in Canada than the United States of America. Okay? Like we are. Really, yeah, we are. Like you have no idea how much more we're in bed with the oil companies here in Canada. So in saying that, how do you divert that interest from oil? Like you say to the oil companies, listen, man, we can't keep pumping out the oil. It's not sustainable. We need something else.
Yeah.
Can you divert funds? Could the government actually encourage incentive with tax breaks if they divert their profits to something more sustainable? Like even solar power roadways, for fuck's sakes. You know what I mean? Yeah. That would save the energy. If an oil company said, okay, I'm going to divert our profits now into this segment, and because we need to, because we can't do oil anymore. Like, how does the government encourage it? Does the PPC have ever heard of that idea, or ever heard of that idea to help companies divert their old interest into new ones?
Yeah, I mean, this may sound like a crude example to bring up, but cool. You've seen the movie Mad Max, not Max and Bernard, but Mad Max.
Yeah.
And in this dystopian post-apocalyptic world, the two most valuable commodities are water and gas.
Yeah.
And I know that this is a crude example. However, I think that speaks to human character, like know the human character of human beings. And I think the only way to reliably change our behavior in a financially sustainable way is with new solutions and transitioning from those solutions. And I do want to emphasize that there's a reason that we do burn oil the way we do. It's cheap, it's easy, it's instantaneous. You might say, oh, we can do solar, we can do wind, and of course we are exploring those options. However,
those are nothing. I'm more like thorium reactors. I'm more like into.
Do you believe in nuclear?
I know thorium is better than nuclear. It's a technology that was it's like between VHS and beta. You know, VHS made it because of a better marketing plan. Right. And the same thing happened with thorium reactors and uranium reactors. Uranium and plutonium won because you can make bombs out of it. So the thorium reactor was like, oh well. But the thorium reactor it produces 200 times more energy than nuclear, but no radioactivity. Yeah. And we have more an abundance of thorium around the Earth than anything else. Yeah. You know, that's technology that I always like introducing. I say it should be a combination of all these sources of energy productions. Like even from this house here, I've seen in Australia where they have solar panels as well as a small windmill. And during the day when most people are at work, because, well, they live in Australia too, it's much more sunny, they're collecting all this energy and they're allowed to produce over 60% of energy for their household on their own. Good. And so at nighttime what they do is they just press a button and their own energy then supplies, because the energy is more expensive at nighttime if you go off the grid. But during the day, the power companies in Australia allow individual homes to contribute to the grid. Now, we've had this example happen here in Whitby where a scientist did that as well. Yeah. And then got shut down.
Really?
Shut down.
Shut down by who?
Oh, the firemen, and it most likely was the Ontario Power Generation because OPG is in Durham Region. And they didn't like the scientists doing this. And we got shut down for responsible programming that I wanted to put in about introducing new technologies of how to save energy. And it got shut down as well.
By the same people, OPG?
OPG basically said, listen, we're not going to fund your New Year celebration this year if you put this show on. And I'm like, wow, holy shit, so we have to cancel the show. Yeah, we have to cancel the shows on the virus. So we got media as well as being influenced by these oil companies and by a lot of these corporations that are feeding, hey, don't talk about renewable energies, don't talk about, the electric car, we don't talk about this, don't talk about that. And I feel that we have the technologies today to really do the transition if we wanted to. It would just be an upsetting of the markets, I think. I think the upset of the markets.
Well, I mean, speaking rationally about this, like picture the 401, picture the QEW every single morning.
Yeah.
It's filled with a lot of cars of people who need to get to work. And I mean, are there alternatives for these people? Yeah, more people could take the GO train maybe, more people could, carpool. Okay.
Yeah, true.
That's all I can, off the top of my head, that's all I can really think of that will help these people in terms of alternatives.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like encouraging corporation. Like you live in a capitalist society. Let's admit you admitted to that.
Yeah.
So let's use capitalism as our source of change.
Sure.
And saying, could the government say, hey, like for instance, if I was on the PPC right now, because by the way I was invited as well too, by the Bernie, the PPC. Let's say this is the idea. If I want, you can eliminate cancer. Don't tell me that over 100 and something years after deciphering the genetic code and all this stuff that you don't have a damn cure for cancer. This is bullshit. Complete bullshit. I don't believe it.
You think so?
Absolutely don't believe it. Okay. I really don't believe it. I've seen some evidence because I'm following a story right now. Okay.
Oh my God.
With Dr. Khan and the College of Physicians, how much they've been suppressing is bullshit.
Yeah.
So this is what I would do. I say, okay, pharmaceutical companies, okay, all you health experts out there. First person to come out with a cure for cancer, and a real cure, not some bullshit bogus thing, a real cure. You get the next so many years off tax breaks. Okay. You get so many years of this, so many years of that, and it will help you. That's what I'm thinking is a great idea for government is to use their greed. Use capitalism and use their greed against them to do the right thing. That's what I'm thinking. What about like when Heinz decided to move out of that small town that devastated the small town here in Canada, to move their corporation over to Mexico? Okay, that's bullshit. I would say let's have a cancellation fee since Rogers Communication gives you a cancellation fee. Why don't we just give a cancellation fee to these corporations that are going to leave the town devastated? Oh yeah, your penalty is $2 million. Here's your fine for leaving this town devastated now because you're a greedy son of a bitch and you were just here 42 years of your fucking life as we made you goddamn profits, and now you just leave the town and just leave these poor employees without a job.
Yeah.
Like, can you speak to those kind of ideas? Are those too radical for the PPC, or are they progressive enough?
I think that the change in attitude is happening amongst people.
Yeah.
And there is this demand to be socially responsible, to be environmentally responsible. I think the government can only do so much in terms of trying to regulate that or influence that. I think when it comes to grants, like green grants, I would only want to give those away to companies that have proven financial sustainability. Because what has happened in the past is, hey, we got a green idea, and then we just throw money at it. And it's like, if that idea wasn't actually, going to survive in a capitalist society or on the market, then I don't want to put money behind that idea.
Yeah, that's right.
So once a company has proven, like this person that you said has a little windmill and a little like solar panels on their house. If we can make that work in Canada and this company is providing that service, then giving them a bump of funds to help them market or to help them get more product, then like I would want to selectively fund like with federal funding companies like that, companies who have a proven model, fulfills the environmentally friendly demand that people want to fulfill right now.
Yeah.
But I'm very wary of kind of just adding bureaucracy and trying to control their companies, because I know that the demand is there for people to be more environmentally conscious and more socially responsible. And an example would be, this is kind of like shifting gears a little bit, but I have an older sister who's a successful like salesperson.
Okay.
And she was working in a company that had like this very kind of like gentleman's club, like sort of misogynistic kind of energy.
Yeah.
And she obviously didn't like that. And she's great at her job. She left because she didn't like that work culture. And she went to somebody where she had a female boss and she liked that work culture and she's thriving there now.
Yeah.
So when these companies, especially maybe these more old school companies, are being socially irresponsible still and being environmentally irresponsible still, it can be to their own detriment, to the point of people actually leaving the company because they don't believe in that anymore.
That's right. And if they lose too much talent, then they lose profits as well.
There you go. Okay. There you go.
Okay, I see that. It's like a very libertarian look at it. I respect that because you. I find you as a candidate, you're actually looking at Canadians with much more of a brain that they do have. I find some of the candidates nearly talk.
Think for yourself. I tell people. I
find that most Canadians, the biggest problem with society today is that we speak at each other rather than speak with each other. And I find that Canadians, politicians now need to do that more. Yeah. Stop speaking at Canadians. Start speaking with Canadians.
With Canadians, yeah.
With Canadians, and stop treating us like children, like as if we don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Seriously.
So, on that note, on anything else that you want to, we know that you're not a racist. PPC is not a racist. PPC is not funding hate speech. Okay, I cannot say with conviction now, more so after even speaking to you and after reviewing the policies that is. Any last words as far as what do you want to see the Parkdale and Hyde Park, as far as what's your main focus here in the community here as a politician? So
I will address immigration again, okay? No Canadian political party is pro-mass immigration. Every party has their own number. Our number just happens to be the lowest. We happen to be focusing on immigration that is going to fulfill our economic needs and refugees that are in the most danger. So just want to clear that up.
You said LGBT plus community and also political asylum, I guess? Or
religious minorities in Muslim majority countries.
Okay, good. That's amazing. You see, I didn't know that. That's the PPC's party. That's amazing. Any last words for before we finish this interview?
Well, thanks so much, JC, for having me. I guess I want to say to the people of Parkdale High Park, we are very socio-economically diverse in this riding. You have Parkdale all the way up to the mansions of Babby Point. And I want to help make life more affordable for you because I believe in you and I believe in the local businesses in this riding. And if we can take the bureaucracy out of the way and keep more money in your pockets, we're going to have more freedom to make the decisions that we need to live a much better life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, JC. Thanks.